I think parents would be more than satisfied if the school day could be extended. Most parents are working now. The stay-at-home mom is an increasingly rare phenomenon. So when you send the kid off to school in the morning and go to work, then to have the child come back at 2 or 3 in the afternoon isn't necessarily very helpful. And the schools have attempted to address that with providing supplemental programs, but they are not of the same, I mean, they're not an extension of the school itself. It's maybe helping on homework or having sports activities and so on. But I think parents, if you said to parents, well, we're going to make the school day roughly equivalent to what the work day is for most people, they'd feel okay about that. But the question is, teachers are already pretty heavily burdened. Perhaps many of us don't appreciate how much they have to do once they leave the school building, getting ready for the next day's class and grading papers and responding to parents' concerns. So whether we can ask teachers to teach a longer time, we probably, I think, need to pay them more. And that, by the way, is another very large issue. Advocates for improved schooling argue that teachers ought to be given a professional status on the same level as doctors and lawyers. But we don't do that, and the wages aren't nearly that high. And so anyway, that's a part of the complexity in moving from what we have to a full day or a longer year. Well, I think the hope is that if an elementary school is a community school, that is, that it draws on attendance primarily from the people who live in the area, that if you can connect with the families very early in the life of the child, you can be a real help to that parent. And some parents can benefit from more support. And one obvious need that families have is make sure that their children get adequate health care, dental care. There's early screening to see if children are experiencing difficulties. Some, even such things as eye and ear checking is important. So the concept of the community school is to use the school as a hub for providing the support services, the health services, and other support services that are of value to the family. The superintendent of the Brooklyn Center School District, it's a very small district. It's got one high school and one elementary school. But he's a pioneer in this concept. And he's built a number of connections and relationships with groups that are supportive of the family. He's in the process of opening up a healthcare clinic that the Park Nicollet people are providing. And in any event, he's a great champion and enthusiast, and he's going to come and talk to us about it on the night. That's at noontime on the 19th. Well, one school that starts out with this design in mind is what they call the KIPP school, K-I-P-P. That's a concept that was, I think, developed maybe out of New York, but it's a national happening. There are KIPP schools all over the United States now, and that's KIP, knowledge is power, something. And they go longer hours. I assume, but I haven't checked, I think their school year is longer. So they are incorporating some of the changes that appear to make it. We had the principals of two of our higher performing schools come and talk to our group. Those were Minneapolis schools.
Okay.
And they've had good success with their children. We do keep looking for examples, not necessarily Minneapolis, but we like to show what also does happen here. I think the school district over the last few years has adopted a well-thought-out strategic plan. They had the help of the McKinsey Corporation, and I'm one of the people who worked on development of that plan. Now stays with the school district. I think she's funded by the Downtown Itasca Group, which is a business-oriented group. So, and I think they've had a hard-working board, and I think they're moving in the right direction. The problem is trying to make change in an institution that employs thousands of people. And so I think they're moving in the right direction. The question is there a way to pick up the pace? If I were mayor, I would involve myself in the school problem extensively, hopefully in support of whatever the school board is trying to do, but the city can bring some resources to the effort. The city can also work with the county. The county is an important provider of support services. In fact, the county now is working on that issue, what they call their A-grad program, as a result of a resolution that they adopted a couple of years ago. So increasingly across the country, mayors are getting more involved. In Chicago, the mayor took over the system. The same is true in New York. In Boston, the mayor plays a much larger role than in most cities. The division of having the schools sort of in one side of the room and the rest of municipal government on the other side isn't exactly the best way to make progress. I think people need to come together. I'd like to see our neighborhood organizations much more deeply involved in the school issue. And part of the problem is that most families don't have kids in the school. I think it runs on the order of 15 or 17% of the families have kids of school age. Well, that means more than 4 out of 5 don't. And what's been amazing about Minneapolis, though, and always made me feel good, is that every time we've had, in recent years, a referendum on a tax levy, it's passed overwhelmingly. I think that's terrific. Well, the committee represents one of a number of groups that have an interest in the schools, but we get school board members coming to some of our meetings, and so it's a very, we don't have a set number of people who come to our committee meetings. We have a mailing list of many hundreds, but normally we'll end up with maybe around 50 people at a meeting. But each meeting brings out a different set of people depending on their interest in the topic. But on the whole, there's been a pretty strong level of interest.
And is this committee something that anyone can sign up to take part in?
Yes, we've had, and it's very nonpartisan. Alan Quee has come to a number of our meetings. And, George Latimer's been to some. So has John Davis, the former superintendent of the Minneapolis schools years back. So we like we encourage anyone who with an interest in the schools to sign up and come when they're interested.